You ever notice how people ignore the softest warnings in life until they turn into alarms? Funny thing is, the universe doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just taps you on the shoulder, whispers in a corner of your mind, sends a feeling you can't quite explain. And when it comes to the woman who carried you, raised you, shaped you, even the smallest whisper becomes important. There's something strange about the way life tries to tell you the truth about her. Maybe it's a feeling you've been pushing aside, a tension you pretend isn't there, a pattern you don't want to see. Maybe it's a heaviness in the air when she speaks, or a tightness in your chest when she's near. People think warnings come in disasters, but sometimes they come in moments no one else notices. And when those moments keep repeating, when they keep tugging at you from the inside, there's a reason. There's something you're meant to pay attention to, something you've been avoiding, something that's finally demanding to be seen. People love to pretend they don't hear the quiet things. They ignore the soft taps on the shoulder, the little nudges in the gut, the tiny shifts in the air that tell them something's off. Oh, they'll listen to noise, drama, explosions, chaos, because it's easy to see, easy to blame, easy to point at. But the subtle warnings, the ones that come wrapped in a feeling, a hesitation, a moment that makes your breath catch for just a second, those are the ones they run from, because those are the ones that force them to look closer at the people they trust the most. And when it comes to the person who brought you into this world, the one you're supposed to understand, supposed to love, supposed to feel safe with, that's where the whispers get complicated, because no one ever teaches you what to do when something feels strange there. No one tells you how to handle it when the discomfort isn't coming from a stranger or an enemy, but from someone you grew up believing could never harm you. So people shove it down. They call it confusion. They call it overthinking. They call it imagination. Anything to avoid admitting that their instincts might be trying to say something important. But instincts don't show up without a reason. They don't spark out of nowhere like cheap fireworks. They evolve from tiny observations you weren't consciously paying attention to. A tone of voice that doesn't match the words. A pattern of manipulation disguised as care. A guilt trip disguised as concern. A smile that feels more like a warning than comfort. Little things that pile up quietly in the back of your mind, waiting for the moment you're honest enough to notice them. It's almost funny how people explain away every single feeling that makes them uncomfortable. They say, "She's family, it's normal." They say, "I'm overthinking it." They say, "Maybe I'm the problem." Because it's easier to doubt yourself than to face the possibility that someone you love has flaws sharp enough to cut you when you're not looking. But sometimes the truth speaks in the softest voice, and the real danger is pretending you don't hear it. Think about the moments when you felt a knot forming in your stomach but brushed it off. The moments when your mood shifted without knowing why. The moments when your body felt tense even though nothing bad happened. People don't realize the body notices things before the mind does. And that tension, that hesitation, that moment of instinct, that's not madness, that's awareness. That's the quiet part of you noticing details your conscious mind isn't ready to process yet. And the interesting part, these warnings aren't always about danger. Sometimes they're about boundaries you've never allowed yourself to set. Sometimes they're about patterns you grew up around and accepted without question. Sometimes they're about realizing you've been carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. Sometimes they're just reminders that you're allowed to protect yourself, even from the people you love, even from the people who raised you, even from the habits that were handed to you like family heirlooms. But people love to ignore the subtle signs. They wait for an explosion, a betrayal, a dramatic moment that confirms what they already knew deep down. They crave proof, evidence, a big flashing sign in the sky that spells out the truth. But life doesn't usually give you that. Life gives you whispers. Life gives you small moments that feel wrong in ways you can't fully explain. Life gives you a feeling in the pit of your stomach that refuses to shut up. And if you keep dismissing those warnings long enough, they become louder, heavier, harder to ignore. The truth is simple. Your instincts don't wake up unless something in your environment gives them a reason to. Those quiet signals, those uncomfortable emotions, those subtle shifts in energy, they're not random. They're not accidents. They're not imaginary. They're invitations to pay attention, to step back, to observe without the filter of loyalty or obligation, to see the dynamics you've been trained to accept without thinking. You know, people walk around pretending they understand the weight of a mother's presence, pretending they've decoded the universe just because they bought her flowers on Mother's Day or posted some cheesy picture with a blurry sunset behind it. But deep down, in that place they don't dare visit, they know the truth is far scarier. They know there's something almost cosmic about the bond, something that doesn't follow the polite rules of society, something older than culture, older than language, older than whatever little systems we build to make ourselves feel in control. And that's what's funny. That's what makes me laugh. Because the moment heaven starts whispering about your mother, people suddenly drop the act. Suddenly their voice trembles. Suddenly their heart realizes it's been playing with fire this whole time. Maybe you felt it too. That little tightening in the chest when you hear her voice. That strange mix of annoyance and love when she nags you. That irritating warmth you pretend not to feel when she worries too much. You shrug it off. Call it normal, call it routine, call it just the way things are. But what if it isn't routine at all? What if it's a warning, a reminder, a signal from something far above your pay grade, something that doesn't send notifications to your phone or emails to your inbox, something that speaks through silence, through sudden thought, through guilt that comes out of nowhere, something that taps you on the shoulder when you're laughing with your friends and whispers, you're forgetting someone. Funny how people are terrified of ghosts, demons, shadows in the corner, but the real haunting comes from the thought of losing the one person who carried you before you could even say your own name, the one person who loved you before you did anything to deserve it, the one whose absence would break you in ways you pretend you're too tough to admit. And that's where the warning comes in. Because heaven doesn't send alarms for fun. No, heaven only sends alarms when you're getting too close to a cliff while looking in the wrong direction. You see, most people don't realize this. Neglect doesn't scream, it whispers. And those whispers accumulate, pile up, stack like fragile little cards, until one day the whole thing collapses and you're left gasping, wondering how you didn't see it coming. You didn't see it coming because you didn't want to, because acknowledging your mother's fragility means acknowledging your own. Acknowledging her mortality means acknowledging the uncomfortable truth that the world doesn't revolve around you, that you're not guaranteed time, that apologies can expire and love can go silent if you ignore it long enough. And that's what makes life such a crazy little trick, doesn't it? You run after people who don't care, chase dreams that don't love you back, fight battles that don't matter, while the person who would burn the world for you sits in a room waiting for you to notice her fading energy, her softening voice, her tired eyes. Heaven sees that. Heaven watches it like an audience watches a slow drama, shaking its head, wondering why humans are so good at misplacing their priorities. So eventually, it sends a sign, a dream, a sudden fear, a memory that hits harder than it should, a conversation that feels heavier than it used to, maybe even a strange coincidence that makes you stop mid-step and think, why did that feel like a warning? People laugh at warnings until they realize they were the foolish ones. They ignore signs until the signs become consequences. They postpone affection until affection becomes regret. And regret, now there's a monster uglier than anything in your nightmares. Regret doesn't scare you at first. It waits. It waits for the day when you reach for a voice that isn't there anymore. When you prepare to say sorry, but the door stays closed forever. When you finally understand that all the time you thought you had was an illusion you built to feel comfortable. Heaven doesn't warn you because it wants to frighten you. It warns you because it knows how fragile your world really is. Fragile like your mother's hands. Fragile like the breath you didn't notice getting shorter. Fragile like the silence that grows when love is ignored long enough. And maybe, just maybe, that warning you're feeling, that pressure in your chest, that uneasiness you can't describe, maybe it's the universe grabbing you by the collar and saying, look closely, before it's too late, before the person you take for granted becomes the memory you'd give anything to see again. You ever notice how people treat their mothers like background music? Always playing, always there, always humming in the distance, while they chase whatever shiny distraction is dancing in front of them. They walk around as if she's some permanent fixture, like a street lamp that will always glow when they need to find their way home. But here's the twist, the part nobody wants to admit. Even the brightest light has a flicker. And when heaven starts to warn you about your mother, that flicker becomes impossible to ignore. Even if you try covering your ears, even if you pretend you don't see it creeping into the edges of your day. It's strange, isn't it? How you can live with someone your whole life and still never really see them. You grow up with her voice shaping your world, her footsteps echoing through the house, her hands cooking, fixing, holding, guiding, and just when you're old enough to understand what she sacrificed, you get too busy to appreciate it, too distracted, too wrapped up in your own problems to notice hers. But heaven notices. Heaven pays attention to the things you overlook. It sees the late nights she spends awake waiting for you. It counts the tears you never see. It watches the strength she uses every day just to keep everyone together while she quietly falls apart. And then, when the time is right, it leans in close and whispers into your heart. Not in thunder, not in lightning, in something far scarier, guilt. Sudden, unexplainable, heavy guilt. A feeling you can't brush off. A weight that sits on your chest when you hear her cough in the next room. A fear that rises out of nowhere when you see her move a little slower than last year. A strange worry when she sighs too deeply. You try to tell yourself it's nothing, just your mind being dramatic, just stress, just overthinking. But deep down you know it's more than that. It's a warning, a cosmic tug on your soul telling you, pay attention. She won't always be here. People think warnings from above come with golden trumpets or glowing visions. No, they come disguised as ordinary moments that suddenly feel not so ordinary. That moment when you look at her and realize she's aging. That moment when she forgets something she never used to forget. That moment when she says she's fine, but you hear the fatigue buried beneath the words. They're subtle signs, sneaky reminders. Little hints that the universe slips into your daily routine to make you notice the truth you've been avoiding. And what's the truth? That you've been living like you have unlimited time. You assume the person who raised you, fed you, protected you, loved you through every version of yourself will just stay, that she won't get tired, that she won't break, that she won't need you in return. But heaven sees the truth you ignore. It watches how fragile she's become, how much she hides from you because she doesn't want to bother you, how she puts on a strong face even when her heart is trembling. And heaven doesn't like seeing a love like that neglected, so it warns you, not to punish you, not to frighten you, but to wake you up before you lose the thing you'll never be able to replace. The funny part is, humans don't appreciate something until they feel the threat of losing it. They don't understand the value of a heartbeat until they hear it weaken. They don't realize how sacred a voice is until it goes quiet. And the universe knows this flaw too well. So it nudges you again and again with memories you didn't ask for, childhood moments you suddenly recall out of nowhere, times she defended you, times she patched you up, times she wiped your tears and pretended she wasn't hurting herself. These memories don't surface for no reason. They come when heaven wants to remind you of the debt you haven't repaid. Every warning is a chance to show up before it's too late, a chance to speak before silence becomes permanent, a chance to give her the love she gave you without hesitation. But if you ignore the signs, well, heaven isn't responsible for what happens next. And that's the part people fear the most. Not the loss itself, but the guilt of realizing they had time, they had chances, they had warnings, and they said, I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow isn't guaranteed, not for her, not for you, and that's why heaven whispers when it does. That's why you feel the uneasiness you can't explain. That's why you're hearing this now. Not to scare you, but to push you toward the truth you keep dodging. Before she becomes the memory you wish you'd held on to tighter, before the warning becomes the regret you carry for the rest of your life. You ever notice how your intuition moves before you do? How it taps you on the shoulder like some invisible troublemaker whispering, look again, something's off. And of course, like every good little grown-up, you try to brush it off. You try to convince yourself you're imagining things, being dramatic, overthinking, because that's easier than admitting the truth. But intuition doesn't care about your excuses. It has a job, a responsibility, and when it senses something shifting in the people closest to you, especially someone like your mother, it starts sounding alarms in ways you can't ignore, no matter how hard you try. It begins gently at first, a strange flutter in your chest when she calls your name, a small pause before you respond to her, a sudden moment when you look at her and feel something you can't define, not fear, not sadness, something older, heavier, and you don't know where it came from. You don't know what triggered it, but you feel it. You feel it in the way your breath shortens when she coughs in the other room. You feel it when she rubs her temples quietly, thinking you didn't notice. You feel it when she sits down slower than she used to, like gravity has finally remembered her age. Your intuition catches these things faster than your mind ever will. And the funny part? You think you're the one observing her. But no, it's your intuition observing you, watching how you react, how you flinch, how you pretend not to see certain things because seeing them means accepting a truth you're not ready for, a truth that someone you depend on emotionally, someone who has anchored you longer than you admit, is changing. And change is terrifying, especially when it's happening to someone you always assumed was unbreakable. But intuition doesn't wait for your permission. It keeps whispering, nudging, poking. It thrives in silence. It loves the nighttime. That's when your defenses are down, when your mind stops racing long enough for it to slip in and show you flashes you didn't ask for. You lie in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, and suddenly your mind plays memories of her taking care of you, her scolding you gently, her covering you with a blanket, her laughing at something stupid you said. These memories don't come randomly. Intuition knows exactly what it's doing. It knows nostalgia is the sharpest wake-up call. And then come the dreams, not nightmares, not horrors, just strange, emotional dreams where she appears younger, or tired, or distant, or somehow fragile. Dreams that leave you waking up with your heart pounding for reasons you can't explain. Dreams that linger in your chest for hours, making you feel like something is wrong even though the house is quiet, the morning is normal, the world appears fine. Intuition uses dreams the way an artist uses shadows to reveal what light refuses to show, but you keep trying to act normal. You keep shrugging it off. She's fine, you tell yourself. She's strong, you tell yourself. She just needs rest, you tell yourself, and maybe she does. But intuition isn't warning you because she's fine. It's warning you because there's something you need to acknowledge, something you need to prepare for, something you haven't been paying attention to. It's not announcing doom, it's reminding you to wake up before life forces you to. You see, intuition is like a fire alarm. It doesn't ring when everything is perfect. It rings because it senses smoke, even if you can't see the flames yet. And when it comes to your mother, that alarm becomes a siren, because the bond between a child and a mother doesn't just live in the mind, it lives in the gut, it lives in the instinct, it lives in that primal part of you that reacts before logic can catch up. But people ignore their instincts all the time. They silence them with distractions, drown them in routines, numb them with excuses, until one day they look back and realize that intuition wasn't trying to scare them. It was trying to save them from regret. It was trying to push them to appreciate, to observe, to understand, to act before the moment passed, before the window closed, before life delivered a truth they weren't ready to face. And that's the real joke. Not the warning itself, but how long you take to listen to it, how long you pretend you didn't feel that deep pull in your chest, how long you convince yourself everything is normal when that quiet voice inside you is shaking you by the shoulders, begging you to pay attention. Because intuition isn't dramatic, it isn't loud, it's honest, brutally, painfully honest. And when it keeps reacting before your mind understands, it's not trying to scare you, it's trying to prepare you for the moment your heart will finally catch up to what your soul already knows you grow up, believing that family bonds are unshakable, unbreakable, untouchable, that the people tied to you by blood could never be dangerous, never be harmful, never be anything other than what you were taught to believe. But life has a funny way of peeling back those illusions, layer by layer, until the truth stares you in the face with a grin you can't forget. And when it comes to your mother, the truth becomes even harder to accept. Because the world tells you she's sacred, perfect, pure. The world tells you she can do no wrong. The world tells you loyalty to her is automatic, effortless, unquestionable. But the world doesn't live in your house. The world doesn't feel what you feel. The world doesn't lie awake at night wondering why something feels off around the very person who raised you. Not all bonds are safe. Not all mothers know how to love without wounding. Not all affection is harmless. Sometimes the danger isn't in what they do to you, but what they've taught you to tolerate. You grow up with patterns, habits, emotional blueprints. You normalize chaos because it's familiar. You accept manipulation because it's wrapped in softness. You learn silence because every time you tried to speak, it didn't end well. You don't call it fear because fear feels too dramatic. You don't call it trauma because that feels too heavy. So you call it love. You call it family. You call it that's just how she is. But deep down, there is a voice whispering that something about this love doesn't feel safe. And the strange thing is, the world sees a gentle mother, a caring mother, a respectable mother. But the version of her that the world gets is not the version you grew up with in every room of the house. People outside see the highlight reel. You live the director's cut, the unedited version, the one with scenes nobody else believes because they didn't see them, they didn't feel them. They didn't experience the pressure in your chest when her tone changed. They didn't notice how your shoulders stiffened when she entered the room. They didn't hear the quiet threats hidden between soft words. They didn't feel the emotional bruises she left behind, the ones that never show up on skin but somehow hurt more than anything physical ever could. And still, society expects loyalty. Society tells you you're ungrateful if you question her, that you're dramatic if you talk about the things that shaped you, that you're disrespectful if you acknowledge the pain she caused while pretending she was doing her best. So you learn to swallow the truth. You learn to bury your discomfort. You learn to smile at gatherings and act like everything is fine, because admitting the truth feels like betraying someone you're supposed to honor. But sometimes the betrayal happened long before you ever tried telling the truth. Not all family bonds are healthy. Some bonds drain you. Some bonds twist you. Some bonds make you smaller, quieter, weaker. Some bonds keep you from becoming who you're meant to be. And when heaven sends a warning about your own mother, it's not because you're supposed to hate her. It's because you're supposed to see her clearly. Without the haze of guilt, without the fog of obligation, without the scripts you were raised to recite. Heaven warns you when a bond is draining you more than it's supporting you, when the love you're offering is being weaponized, when the peace you're fighting for is always one conversation away from being destroyed by her mood, her anger, her unhealed wounds. Maybe she never intended to hurt you. Maybe she's carrying her own pain. Maybe she's repeating patterns she never learned to break. But intent doesn't cancel impact, and love doesn't justify damage. You can acknowledge her humanity without excusing the harm. You can see her struggle without sacrificing yourself. You can care about her without abandoning your sanity. But you can't do any of that until you stop pretending everything is fine, until you stop calling unhealthy behavior normal, until you stop hiding the truth from yourself just to protect the image of the person who shaped your childhood. The warning isn't about blame. It's about awareness. It's about waking up before the patterns pass on to you. It's about recognizing when a bond is costing you more than it's giving you. It's about understanding that the people closest to you can unintentionally become the ones who limit you the most. And if heaven is warning you, it means there's something you've been overlooking, something you've been tolerating, something you've been swallowing for far too long because you didn't believe you had the right to question it. But you do. You always did. The truth is not disrespect. The truth is not betrayal. The truth is survival. And some of the most dangerous places for a person to stay trapped are the places that once felt like home. Silence is a strange creature. It has a way of slipping through the cracks, crawling under doors, settling on your shoulders when you least expect it. People underestimate it, thinking silence means nothing is happening. But silence is loud. Silence is revealing. Silence is where you hear the truth your mind has been avoiding. And when it comes to your mother, that silence becomes something else entirely. It becomes a mirror. It shows you what words try to hide, what smiles try to cover, what routines try to disguise. Silence exposes things you never wanted to see. You sit there in a room with her, maybe sharing a meal, maybe passing by each other like two ghosts living in the same house, and suddenly you feel it, that heaviness, that weight pressing down on your chest, that sense that something is different about her but you can't quite name it. She speaks less. She sighs more. She walks slower. She stares into the distance a little longer than she used to. And combined with the quiet, those tiny changes scream louder than any argument ever could. But humans are clever creatures when it comes to denial. They hear silence and immediately try to fill it. Jokes, small talk, fake enthusiasm, distractions. Anything to drown out the feeling that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. But you can't outrun silence. You can't outtalk it. You can't bury it under noise. Because silence follows you into your mind, into your memories, into your late-night thoughts where every truth echoes so loud it's impossible to ignore. You start remembering moments between you and her that didn't make sense at the time. The times she seemed tired but insisted she was fine. The times her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. The times she rubbed her chest or her back when she thought no one was watching. The times she forced herself to stay strong because she didn't want you to worry in the moment you brushed it off. She always handled everything. She always kept the family running. She always put everyone first. That's what she does, right? But now, in the silence, those moments line up like clues in a story you never wanted to read, and the silence keeps growing. Not the peaceful kind, not the resting kind, the tense kind, the kind that feels like the calm before something breaks. She starts forgetting things she never used to forget. She repeats herself. She gets irritated more easily. She loses her appetite. She sits down with a groan she tries to laugh off, and all the while she tells you she's fine, because that's what mothers do. They lie to keep you comfortable. They pretend everything is under control, even when their bodies and hearts are sending warnings they refuse to admit. But silence doesn't lie. Silence is honest. Silence is brutal. Silence holds the truth hostage and forces you to face it. You begin noticing details you ignored for years. How her hands tremble slightly when she reaches for something. How her voice cracks when she says she's tired. How she hesitates before standing as if she's calculating how much pain it will cause. How she zones out mid-conversation because her mind is overwhelmed. No loud announcement, no dramatic collapse. Just silence, revealing the slow unraveling of someone you thought was unbreakable. And it's during these quiet moments that heaven whispers the loudest, not with thunder, not with visions, with a feeling, that unsettling awareness that something is shifting, that sense of urgency pressing against the back of your skull, that fear that you're running out of time even though no one has said anything out loud. Heaven uses silence to warn you, because silence is the only thing strong enough to bypass your excuses, your optimism, your stubborn belief that she'll always be okay. Silence forces you to look at her as she is, not as you want her to be. Not the superhero version you built in your head, not the tireless, indestructible figure you depended on your whole life. Silence makes you see the human beneath all of that. The woman who has been carrying more than she ever let on. The woman whose strength came with a cost. The woman who is finally showing the cracks she tried so desperately to hide from you. And in those quiet moments, something else happens. Your heart starts speaking. Not the loud, dramatic kind of speaking, the subtle kind, the kind that says pay attention, the kind that urges you to ask her deeper questions, to sit with her longer, to watch her more closely, to stop assuming she's okay just because she says she is. The kind that pushes you to act before the silence turns into something permanent. People fear loud chaos, but the real danger is in the quiet, because quiet tells you the truth. Quiet holds the secrets. Quiet shows you what's coming long before it arrives. And when silence surrounds your mother, it's not by accident. It's not a coincidence. It's a warning disguised as stillness, a whisper disguised as calm, a truth disguised as a pause in the noise of life protecting your peace. Such a simple phrase, right? People throw it around like it's a cute slogan for a coffee mug. But anyone who's actually lived through chaos, real chaos, knows there's nothing cute about it. Protecting your peace means making choices that tear you apart inside. It means questioning the people you were taught to trust blindly. It means stepping back from the very person who gave you life and realizing that love can sometimes feel like a trap disguised as duty. And that's where the uncomfortable truth begins. Sometimes the biggest threat to your peace is the person you assumed would never hurt you. You grow up believing that questioning your mother is forbidden. You're programmed to think she's always right, always wise, always good. But what if that's not the whole story? What if she has wounds of her own that she never healed? What if she uses her pain like a weapon without even realizing it? What if her love comes wrapped with guilt, control, fear, or silent expectations you never agreed to? You don't want to ask these questions. Nobody does. But life has a twisted way of forcing you to look at things you'd rather ignore. You start noticing that every time you talk to her, your chest tightens, that whenever her name pops up on your phone, you hesitate before answering, that you can't be fully honest with her because honesty always leads to criticism or misunderstanding or another emotional storm you'll have to clean up afterward. You tell yourself she's just worried, just protective, just stressed. But there's a difference between worry and control, between love and guilt, between care and suffocation. And your peace feels the difference before your mind dares to say it out loud. You sit across from her, maybe during breakfast, maybe in the evening when the house is too quiet and you feel it, that draining energy, that invisible pull that takes more out of you than it gives. You try to be patient, you try to be kind, you try to remind yourself of everything she's done for you, but there's a line inside you, a line you can't ignore anymore. A line that whispers, why do I feel worse after talking to her? Why do I feel smaller? Why do I feel like I owe her something I can never repay? That whisper grows louder each time you brush it off. And here's the trickiest part. Protecting your peace doesn't mean abandoning her. It doesn't mean disrespect. It doesn't mean cutting ties and running away. It means seeing things clearly. Seeing where the conversations start to hurt you, seeing the patterns that repeat every time you try to set a boundary, seeing the way she reacts not to your words, but to her own unhealed past. You begin to understand that your role isn't to fix her. Your job isn't to sacrifice your happiness to make her comfortable. That's not love. That's emotional debt, passed down from one generation to the next like some cursed. People love to think they're the hero of their own story. The good guy, the one who does right, who loves deeply, who gives and gives and gives, because that's what good people do, right? And then, one day, they wake up in a nightmare. A twisted little game where the rules don't make sense, where the more they give, the more it gets used against them. And suddenly, they're not the hero anymore. No, they're just a fool who didn't see it coming. People love a good story. They love the kind where the hero meets someone dazzling, someone different, someone who just gets them. Oh, it's intoxicating. It's like stepping into a dream where every word, every glance, every little touch is designed to make them feel like the most important person in the world. And they eat it up. They want to believe it. Because who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to be chosen by someone so special, so charming, so perfect? But here's the punchline, it's not real. Oh, no, no, no. It never was. It was a show, a magic trick, a sleight of hand that made them look one way while the real trick was happening somewhere else. See, these people, the ones who make you feel like you're walking on air, they're not giving you love. They're selling you an illusion. And guess what? You're the one paying the price. It starts out small, little mirroring here, little flattery there. They study you, learn your weaknesses, your insecurities, your needs. They pick apart your past like a vulture tearing into a fresh kill. And before you know it, they've become exactly what you always wanted, that missing piece, that soulmate, that perfect partner. But perfection is a costume, and costumes, well, they don't last forever. At first, they adore you, hang on your every word, make you feel like the center of the universe. But then, slowly, so slowly you don't even notice at first, things shift. That laugh they used to love, suddenly it's annoying. That passion you had, now it's too much. And those sweet little words they whispered at the beginning, oh, those turn into little criticisms, little digs, little ways to make you feel less confident, less secure, less you. And you don't even see it happening, because by the time the mask starts to slip, you're already hooked. You remember who they used to be, and you tell yourself that person is still in there, buried under stress or pressure or whatever excuse they've fed you this time, so you try harder. You work to earn back that love, that attention, that validation. And that's the game, isn't it? They build you up so high that when they drop you, you'll do anything just to get back to where you were. But here's the kicker. You never get back. Because that person, that perfect, wonderful person who made you feel like you were finally home, they were never real. Just a role, a character played to perfection until they got what they wanted. And once they did, once they knew they had you, oh, that's when the real fun begins. That's when they push you, test you, see how much they can get away with. And every time you let it slide, every time you doubt yourself instead of them, they win. They win because you believe in the illusion. You hold on to it like a gambler chasing a losing bet, thinking if you just play one more round, if you just prove yourself, you'll hit the jackpot. But there is no jackpot. There's only a game you were never meant to win, because the house always wins. And in this house, love isn't love. It's control. It's power. It's a game of how much can I take from you before you figure out I was never who I said I was. And when you finally do, when you finally wake up and see the trick for what it is, that's when they do what they do best. They switch. They twist it. You become the problem. You become the villain. And they walk away like they were the victim all along. And the best part? They leave you questioning everything. Because that's the real magic trick, isn't it? It's not making you love them. No, no, no. It's making you doubt yourself. It's making you wonder if maybe, just maybe, it was all in your head. Funny thing about losing yourself, you never even notice it happening. It's not some big dramatic moment where the lights flicker, the music swells, and you realize, oh no, I've lost who I am. No, no, no. It's slow, subtle, like a shadow creeping across the room while you're too busy looking at the light. At first you feel lucky, like you stumbled into something rare, something special. They make you feel seen, make you feel wanted. And you start adjusting little by little. You stop bringing up certain things because, well, they don't like that. You laugh a little quieter because apparently your laugh is too much. You change your clothes, your hair, your words, because the way they look at you when they approve, oh, that feeling is addictive. But then the rules start changing. What made them smile yesterday makes them sigh today. What they adored about you at the start suddenly becomes a flaw. And you start second guessing. Maybe I was too loud. Maybe I did talk too much. Maybe I do need to be better. And just like that, piece by piece, you start handing over little parts of yourself, chipping away at the person you used to be. At first, you tell yourself it's just compromises. Relationships require effort, right? But then the compromises start to feel more like sacrifices. The things that made you you, your hobbies, your friends, your dreams, somehow start disappearing. Not all at once, no, that'd be too obvious. Just here and there, a mist gathering, a forgotten passion, a small decision that turns into a pattern. And every time you step a little further away from yourself, they make sure you believe it's your choice. And that's the real trick, isn't it? They don't force you. No, that would be too easy to fight. They guide you, make you feel like you are the one changing, that you are the one choosing to let go of yourself. And by the time you finally look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back, well, by then they've already rewritten the script. You try to speak up, but your words don't come out right. You try to push back, but somehow you're the one who's being difficult. You're the one who's causing problems, and you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they're right. Maybe it really is you. Maybe you are too sensitive, too emotional, too much. And that's when the real fun begins. Because now they can take anything from you, your time, your energy, your identity, and you'll just keep giving. Because by now you're convinced that if you just try a little harder, if you just fix yourself, you'll get back to the beginning. Back to the days when they looked at you like you were the best thing that ever happened to them. But here's the punchline. You'll never get back there. Because that person they pretended to be, they never existed. So you keep shrinking, keep bending, keep molding yourself into whatever version of you they need in the moment. And the worst part? You don't even realize you're doing it. You think you're making things better. You think you're saving the relationship, but what you're really doing is disappearing, fading away into whatever shape they want you to be. And by the time you finally start to realize what's happening, by the time you start to feel that empty, aching feeling in your chest where you used to be, you're too exhausted to fight. Because that's the real goal, isn't it? Not just to take from you, but to make you so drained, so confused, so lost, that you don't even have the strength to walk away. Pain has a funny way of teaching lessons. You don't sign up for the class, you don't get a syllabus, and there sure as hell aren't any office hours where you can ask, why me? Oh no, no, no. Pain just shows up, sits you down, and starts the lecture. And let's be honest, you don't really listen at first. Why would you? You're too busy trying to make sense of it all. Too busy asking the same question over and over again, like a broken record, stuck on the same pathetic tune. Why did this happen? Why me? Why did I fall for it? But here's the joke. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some cosmic accident or cruel twist of fate. No, it was a setup. A carefully placed lesson disguised as a disaster. Because sometimes the only way to wake up is to be shaken so hard that you've got no choice but to open your eyes. And that's exactly what happened, isn't it? You got tangled up in something that felt so real, so perfect, only to watch it turn to dust in your hands. And when the dust settled, well, there you were, staring at the wreckage, wondering where it all went wrong. Oh, but it didn't go wrong. It went exactly the way it was supposed to. Because you weren't just placed in their life for their sake. No. They were placed in yours. Think about it. Think about all the things you ignored, all the red flags you brushed aside. Think about the way you bent over backward, twisted yourself into something smaller just to fit into their world. Think about how much of yourself you gave away without even realizing it. And now, sitting in the aftermath, you see it all so clearly. Because that's the thing about pain. It burns everything down. But in that fire, in that destruction, something new is forged. And now you know. Now you see what you couldn't see before. That it was never about them. It was never about fixing them or saving them. No. It was about you. About seeing how much of yourself you were willing to lose for someone who was never going to be satisfied. About learning that love, real love, doesn't demand that you break yourself into pieces just to keep someone else whole. You ever notice how life has a way of putting you in the same situation over and over again, just with different faces, different names, different scenery? That's because lessons don't just go away when you ignore them. No, they wait. They wait until you're paying attention, until you're ready to learn. And that's why this had to happen. That's why they had to happen. Because now, now you know what manipulation looks like when it's dressed up as love. You know how to recognize the slow, creeping erosion of your own worth. You know what it feels like to be drained, to be used, to be left wondering what the hell happened to the person you used to be. And most importantly, you know the price of ignoring yourself. Because that's the real crime, isn't it? Not that they lied, not that they played their little games, but that you saw the signs and kept walking toward the fire anyway. But you had to. Because if you hadn't, you wouldn't be here right now, seeing things clearly for the first time. You wouldn't have the tools you need to recognize the next illusion before it pulls you under. You wouldn't be able to hear the difference between a voice that lifts you up and one that's just waiting for the right moment to cut you down. So no, this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't bad luck or karma or some cruel trick played on you just for the fun of it. It was a lesson, a test, a setup. And now you get it. Funny thing about people, they'll tell you exactly who they are if you just sit back and let them talk. Oh, they might dress it up real nice at first, might wrap their intentions in a shiny little bow. But the truth always leaks out like blood seeping through a white glove. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to dig. All you gotta do is pay attention. At first, they're perfect, aren't they? Like something out of a dream. They know just what to say, just how to make you feel like you matter. And you believe it, because why wouldn't you? It feels good to be seen, to be chosen. But the trick is, they're not looking at you. Not really. No. They're looking at a mirror, a reflection of what they need you to be. And you play along. You don't even realize it's happening, but little by little you start bending, shifting, becoming the version of yourself that fits their little fantasy. But here's where it gets interesting. See, they can only keep up the act for so long. Eventually, the mask starts slipping. And if you're really paying attention, you'll notice the cracks forming early. It's in the little things, the way they dismiss you when you talk about something you care about, the way they laugh a little too hard at your insecurities, the way they take your time, your energy, your kindness, without ever really giving anything back. At first it's subtle, like a shadow in the corner of your eye. But shadows, they grow, and before you know it, you're standing in the dark, wondering when the lights went out. You tell yourself, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive. And oh, they love that, don't they? The way you doubt yourself, the way you rewrite reality in their favor. It makes their job easier. Because as long as you're questioning yourself, you're not questioning them. But there's always a moment where everything shifts. Maybe it's something they say, something so cold, so calculated that it sends a chill down your spine. Maybe it's the way they look at you like you're not even a person, just a puzzle piece that doesn't fit anymore. Or maybe it's nothing dramatic at all. Maybe it's just that one day you wake up and you feel it, that emptiness, that exhaustion. That quiet little whisper in the back of your head that says, something is wrong. And once you hear that voice, once you really hear it, there's no going back. Because now you see them. Not the version they sold you, not the illusion. You see them. The hollow, hungry thing beneath the charm. The predator beneath the smile. And suddenly, all those little moments, all those tiny warning signs, they weren't so small after all. Now here's where most people get stuck. See, once you see the truth, you have to make a choice. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Because by now, you're invested. You've poured time, energy, maybe even love into this person. Walking away feels like setting fire to everything you built. And that's exactly what they're counting on. They don't need you to love them. They just need you to stay, because as long as you're there, as long as you're still playing the game, they win. So what do? Do you stay, keep pretending, keep hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'll change? Or do you finally listen to that voice in your head? The one that's been whispering the truth all along. Because that's the real trick, isn't it? You never needed proof. You never needed a big dramatic moment to tell you what you already knew. You just needed to trust yourself. People like to think they're in control. That they're the ones calling the shots, making the choices, steering the wheel. It's a cute little illusion, isn't it? Because if you take a step back, if you really look at it, you'll see that most people aren't in control of anything at all. They're just reacting. Reacting to the past, to their fears, to the scars they pretend don't exist. And when someone walks into their life, they don't see a person. No, they see a fix, a bandage, a way to quiet the chaos inside their own head, even if just for a little while. You ever wonder why certain people latch on to you? Why they pull you in so fast, so hard, like a drowning man, grabbing onto the nearest thing that floats? It's not because they see you, it's because they see what you can do for them. You make them feel whole. You make them feel important. You make them feel like maybe, just maybe, they're not as empty as they secretly know they are. But the thing about black holes is, they don't stop. They don't get full. They just keep pulling, keep consuming, until there's nothing left. And by the time you realize it, by the time you look down and see that you've been hollowed out, that you're just a shell of the person you used to be, it's a little too late, isn't it? That's the joke. That's the game. They were never looking for love. They were looking for a host. And you, oh, you were perfect. You gave and gave and gave. You thought if you just loved them hard enough, if you just understood them deeply enough, if you just proved that you were worth it, they'd finally stop searching. That they'd finally look at you and say, this is enough. But they never do. Because it was never about you. And that's the cruel part, isn't it? The part that stings. Because deep down, you saw the signs. You felt the imbalance. You knew, but you ignored it. You told yourself you could handle it, that it wasn't as bad as it seemed, that maybe you were overreacting, that maybe this time it would be different. But it wasn't. It never is. Because people don't change just because you want them to. They change because they choose to. And tell me, what reason do they have to change when they've got you exactly where they want you? You could walk away, sure. You could rip yourself out of their orbit, let the black hole swallow itself instead of swallowing you. But that's not easy, is it? Because they've built something in your head, something sticky, something dangerous. They've convinced you that you need them, that without them you'd be lost, that without them you'd be nothing. And isn't that funny? The way they make you forget who you were before they walked in, the way they twist things so perfectly that you start believing you're the problem. But let's be honest, you're not lost. You're not broken. You're just waking up. And waking up, oh, that's the part they hate. Because the second you see it for what it is, the second you stop playing along, their little magic trick stops working. And they panic. They guilt, they cry, they promise, they rage, anything to keep you in the game. Because if you leave, they lose their fix. And people like that? They don't like to lose. So what's it gonna be? Do you keep feeding the beast, keep letting them take piece after piece until there's nothing left? Or do you finally remember who the hell you were before they started rewriting your story? Because that's the trick, isn't it? They never had the power. They just convinced you that they did. You ever notice how people like that always come back? Oh, they act like they don't need you, like they've moved on, like you were just another stop on their little tour of destruction. But then, boom, there they are again, right when you've started to breathe a little easier, like a bad habit you thought you'd kicked, showing up just to remind you that they still exist. And what do they want? Oh, well, that's the funny part, isn't it? They don't even know. They just know they don't like it when you stop playing their game. See, it's never about love, never about connection. It's about control. When they had you, they picked you apart piece by piece until you barely recognized yourself. But now that you've started pulling yourself back together, now that you're learning how to live without them, well, that's a problem. Because if you don't need them, if you're not still wrapped up in the mess they made, then what does that say about them? So they come back. Maybe they're sweet this time, all soft words and sad eyes, telling you they've changed, that they see the error of their ways, that this time will be different. They tell you everything you wanted to hear before, because now they know exactly what works. And for a second, just a second, you wonder, what if? What if they really did change? What if it was all just bad timing? What if this is your shot at the happy ending they promised you in the beginning? Or maybe they're angry. Maybe they don't even bother with the act. Maybe they show up spitting venom, accusing you of abandoning them, of giving up on them. They tell you that you were the problem, that you're selfish, that you never really cared, that they twist the story so tightly that for a second, just a second, you feel that little twinge of doubt, that little whisper that says, maybe they're right. But deep down, you know they're not. Deep down, you know exactly what this is. It's not love. It's not redemption. It's a power move. It's desperation. It's the final play of someone who thought they'd broken you enough to keep you forever. And now that they see you slipping away, now that they see the cracks in their illusion, they can't have that. Because you were supposed to stay in your cage. You were supposed to be theirs. But let's be real. They don't miss you. They miss the supply. They miss the way you made them feel important. The way you fed their ego, the way you forgave and forgave and forgave even when they didn't deserve it. They miss having someone to control, someone to blame, someone to hurt just to see if they still had the power. Because without that, without you, they have to sit with themselves. And there is nothing more terrifying to a person like that than sitting alone with the monster they really are. You think if you give them another chance, things will change? That this time they'll see your worth respect you, love you the way they should have all along? Let me ask you something. What changed? Did they suddenly develop empathy? Did they wake up one day and decide to be a decent person? Did they do the work? Or did they just realize they were losing their grip on you? That's the real question, isn't it? The one they don't want you to ask. Because if you do, if you really stop and look at their actions instead of their words, you'll see the truth. And the truth is that they don't come back because they love you. They come back because they hate the idea of you being free.